Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a concept from the world of commercial real estate finance that, honestly, sounds pretty intimidating at first, but is actually surprisingly logical once you break it down. We are demystifying the balloon loan. So let's jump right in.
Okay, let's start by totally shattering a really common misconception. Most people just assume that every mortgage works exactly the same way. You borrow money, you make the exact same payment every single month for, say, 15 or 30 years, and at the end of that time frame, boom, the loan is magically paid off. And, well, for the house you live in, that's absolutely true. But for commercial real estate, no way. It's a completely different timeline. We're often talking about a lifespan of just 5 to 10 years, and they end with this massive lump sum coming due all at once.
Section 1. Decoding the balloon loan. So the real secret sauce is in the mechanics here. A balloon loan is structured so your regular monthly payments are calculated as if the loan will be paid off over a nice, long, relaxed period, usually 25 or 30 years. But here's the huge catch. The loan actually comes due in full way sooner than that. So you make those highly manageable payments for a set number of years, commonly 5 or 10 in the commercial space. And then, at the exact end of that period, whatever amount is still owed literally drops right on you. That remaining balance is the balloon, and it's due as one single lump sum payment. Just contrast that with your typical 30-year residential mortgage, where it's fully paid off by the end of the term and you never have to worry about a huge lump sum showing up at your door.
This really brilliantly illustrates that massive contrast. Your monthly cash flow feels totally relaxed, right? It's based on that 30-year timeline. But the actual lifespan of the loan is just 5 years. There's this fundamental disconnect between the long period your payments are based on and the really short timeline when the lender actually wants all their money back.
Section 2. The Car Lease Analogy.
To make this math instantly click without needing a finance degree, think of it exactly like a 5-year car lease. For years 1 through 4, your monthly bill feels incredibly light. It's kind of calculated like you're financing that car over, say, 8 years. You're just cruising along, enjoying the small payments. But then, we hit year 5. At the end of that timeline, the ride stops, and that remaining balloon balance forces a final decision. You either hand the keys back, you buy the car outright by paying off that big remaining chunk, or you refinance that remaining balance into a completely new loan. The balloon in commercial real estate works exactly like that leftover balance on the car at the end of a lease.
Section 3. Why use a balloon? Now, you might be wondering, why do it this way? Well, it turns out the balloon is essentially the perfect compromise between the lender and the borrower. Let's walk through the 4 main reasons. First up, lenders literally just do not want to be locked into one interest rate for 30 years on a commercial property. Commercial buildings are just fundamentally riskier than single-family homes. The market for an office building can shift drastically in a few decades, so a shorter term lets the lender reprice their risk every 5 to 10 years instead of blindly guessing the future. Second, commercial real estate changes hands way more often than houses do. Investors usually buy these properties expecting to sell or refi or totally reposition them within 5 to 10 years anyway. So locking in a 30-year loan doesn't actually match their business plan. Third, a lot of these commercial loans get pulled together and sold to investors. Those investors really want predictable, shorter time horizons. A fixed date when the loan resolves is just much easier to plan around. And finally, number 4, it keeps the monthly cash flow actually manageable for the borrowers. If you had to fully pay off a massive commercial building in just 5 years, the monthly payments would be absolutely astronomical. By using 30-year math for the monthly payments, the cash flow stays reasonable.
Section 4. When the balloon drops.
Okay, so what actually happens when this giant balloon finally comes due? I mean, we are talking about millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars coming due on a random Tuesday. Borrowers almost never have that kind of liquid cash just sitting in a checking account waiting to be spent. The truth is, almost nobody is actually writing a check for the balloon out of their own pocket. Instead, they take one of 2 common escape routes. Step 1, they simply refinance. They go out, get a brand new loan, and use that fresh money to pay off the old balloon balance. Or, step 2, they sell the property entirely and use the buyer's money to pay off the lump sum. And most of the time, this is a super smooth process. The date arrives, they refi or sell, and everybody just moves on.
But, and you knew there had to be a but here, this brings us to the ultimate catch. It's known as balloon risk, or sometimes refinance risk. This is the very real danger that a borrower simply cannot refinance when that massive lump sum is due. Why would that happen? Well, maybe interest rates skyrocketed since they took out the loan, making a new one way too expensive. Or maybe the property's overall value completely dropped. Or perhaps banks just tightened up their lending standards. If any of those happen right as the balloon is due, the borrower is totally stuck. And that is exactly why lenders want to check up on the property's health long before that balloon date actually arrives.
Which brings us to a really fascinating final thought for today's explainer. The balloon loan system actually works beautifully. It gives flexibility, it protects lenders from decades of interest rate risk, and it gives borrowers manageable payments. But it works beautifully right up until market conditions shift at the exact wrong moment. If the market crashes the exact year your balloon is due, who catches it? It leaves both the borrower and the lender incredibly exposed to the drop. Think about that. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.